we discuss an interesting theory put forth by Shane about the Gastling Gun and the bunny turret. There are two issues with the Crook boss. Firstly, the Game Master Crook boss. There was an issue with the Crook boss where the piggy bank didn't spawn in after a certain while after the Crook boss had dealt certain damage. This was an issue previous to the Ducky Revenge event update, but as you just saw, or as you see with this piggy bank spawning in, they did fix it for the Easter update. The next issue relates to the Alien Focus Crook boss skin. I should have the Alien Focus Crook boss skin equipped, however, if you place down the Crook boss here, you'll realise that, oh wait, it's the default skin, and in fact default units spawn in instead of the Alien Focus Crook boss units. The developers acknowledged this, saying that you shouldn't use the Alien Focus Crook boss skin because it just defaults to the default skin. So the developers are aware of this glitch, however they are not doing anything to fix it. So the Alien Focus skin will apparently be a default skin for the foreseeable future. I would imagine that developers fix it eventually, but given the fact that the Alien Focus skin does come from the coin crate, a crate which costs Robux, and given the fact that the two other skins are for an event tower and are legendary rarity, so are 2 times more rare compared to the Alien Focus skin, I would imagine some people are actually quite pissed about the fact that you cannot use the Alien Focus skin for the Crook boss. Also, for whatever reason, I can't seem to equip towers using the right-click button. Can I do it for consumables? I can do it for consumables, but for some reason I can't do it for towers. That doesn't make sense. I'm going to have to assume that this is a glitch because I can't do it. It doesn't seem like I can do it for towers, but I can do it for consumables. Another thing that they fixed is the game passes in the store being incorrect sizes. So previously there was only one game pass that was big sized, so 2 of the small sized game passes would appear here. Fixed that before the Ducky event, but obviously with the Ducky events they've now replaced the engineer big slots with the biologist big slots, as you can see here. Interestingly, the developers still have not fixed the Emotes game pass, even though I am aware they have watched it. The video that bit is. Also, unlike the other game passes, you can't actually gift the biologist bundle nor the Grim skin to other players, but you can gift the biologist tower because it is here as a game pass gift. I don't know if that's going to be permanent, or if, for example, when the biologist bundle gets a game pass or developer product, well, it does have a developer product, but if it's properly released, I don't know if the developers would add a gifting system for it, like if you go up to it and press gift, for example, as is the case where you can gift, say, the Mecho DJ booth. How is the Jester skin shooting ahead of the amalgamation? That's not what it's meant to do, right? Unless the fleshlings are invisible, which I assume it must be, right? Yeah, I have to assume that it's something to do with the fleshlings, but I don't see the fleshlings. There's a really weird thing with performance in this game now. Next, the index now supports randomized enemy animations. So for example, you see Evil Ducky here, it has this animation, or this animation, basically the 3 animations that you can see in the game. Next, something that the developers have added, which I actually quite like, is that the boss health bars no longer stacked upon each other. They now actually stack in rows of 3 if there are more than 3 bosses. Now, this is incredibly useful in, say, Badlands 2, or, well, there are 3 bosses that spawn in, for example, for the giant skeleton and the undead miners. And as you can see, this represents all of the enemies here, rather than having it a whole list which goes off the screen and covers the entire screen. Well, I mean, this covers the entire screen, but still, at least you can actually see some stuff behind the health bars, and it is more legible this way instead of having like 10 bosses not being shown here. The default, I believe, is 2 boss bars, 2 rows of them. However, I have a larger screen, so I can show 3. Next isn't really surprising, but the Legacy Ducky enemies here, and they do actually function as if they were walking on a path, because actually in the original game they were actually walking on a path. It's just that we didn't see this path. The only one that is kind of glitched is the original Ducky Doom. However, given the fact that you can only get Ducky Doom the third logbook, you can't get the original Ducky Doom enemies. But you can get, say, Ducky Unit, Ducky, Cool Ducky, because they have same names to logbooks that you can get currently. But for example, even though I can get egg rolls 1, 2, and 3, you can't get the original egg roll enemy because the original egg roll enemy doesn't share its name with an enemy in the current modern versions. Also, the developers have still decided not to fix the brute nor the tutorial boss's icon, nor PNG bot. Next, they fixed an issue where the Molten boss didn't appear in the logbooks. Now, I believe the developers removed it because they thought only hackers had the Molten boss logbook because it was a legacy mode enemy. However, I think the developers forgot that the Molten boss actually appeared in hardcore mode, even though I can't actually find the Molten boss. Where is it? It should be between the Molten and the Molten Demon, but I can't find it. Momentin does show me the Molten boss here, and it does seem to be the case that this is in the game now, but I can't see it. Next, there was an issue upon release of the Ducky Revenge event where the Necromancer used to spawn in the units from the Duck skin. So instead of skeleton spawning in, it will be duck spawning in. However, they have fixed it. Also, I failed to mention this in the review, but the giant duck is actually quite giant. However, I don't know why the giant skeleton is so giant, but the executioner skeleton, which has more health than the giant skeleton, isn't as big. Next, the developers have added a scroll bar for the rewards because there was an issue where if there were more than 4 rewards being granted to you, it would go and overspill this UI here. As you can see, there's a 5th reward here. So in the events, when they give you a badge, you couldn't actually see all of the rewards that you got. By adding a scroll bar, they have allowed most people to see what their rewards are. Now, there is an issue where if you're on a laptop and your trackpad doesn't support scrolling, where you still can't see it, but that's the case for the Battle Pass, because you can't scroll through the Battle Pass either. In that case, I don't know if the developers can really do much other than add a scroll bar to the Battle Pass, or you should get a mouse with a scroll wheel on it. Next, there's an issue with the Gastling Gun where you're unable to shoot the Gastling Gun. However, this is actually not the case. This is only the case in the Ducky Revenge event where the Gastling Gun, for some reason, in that game doesn't work. Why is my arm spazzing around even though I'm not controlling it? Okay. Now, I would like to point out that Shane, being the devious cretin that he is, speculates that this may be because the developers didn't want us attacking the bunny turret to discover its logbook for some reason. Yeah, so for some reason, has anyone tried to use a pumpkin bomb on the bunny turret? We know that they can be killed and they have stats. Could it be Frostborn 2.0? So Shane actually tried to use the pumpkin bomb on the bunny turret and it didn't work. Bunny turrets, even though they are built by boulder duckies for whatever reason, they aren't counted as enemies, therefore meaning that you cannot get the bunny turret logbook. That being said though, after people discovered that the Frostspawner was an enemy, the developers decided that you can actually get the Frostspawner logbook. So you never know, maybe the developers would for some reason make the bunny turrets an enemy, and all of a sudden we'll have to spend 10 billion pumpkin bombs to get the logbooks for the bunny turrets. Bearing in mind that the pity rate is now 60, that's a lot of pumpkin bombs. Next, I want to talk about the rewards for Bathroom Approach. So there is common, uncommon, rare, legendary, and custom. The common rewards, these are the Triumph rewards. You can get timescale tickets, revive tickets, spin tickets, low-grade consumable crates, or Easter eggs, 2 to 4 of those. Now, this doesn't matter if it's hard or easy mode, so if you want to grind out Easter eggs or Ducky Squad consumables, this is the only way to do it, you can get 2 to 4 of them, Easter eggs, and 2 to 3 Ducky Squads. Now, interestingly, with the Ducky Squad, the confusion ducks can actually confuse bosses. Don't tell Shane this, otherwise he'll start spelling Ducky Squads to confuse the bosses, all of the bosses in Tower Defense Simulator. I don't know if the developers would actually fix this, or if it's something that deserves to be fixed, given the fact that the Ducky Squad consumable is quite rare. I guess it's the same for the Easter egg, because that can stack abilities. And in fact here, it says it's listed as a bug, where the Easter egg buffs can stack, except for the hidden detection buff. I'm not entirely sure if that is a bug, or if the developers would actually ever fix it, given the fact that the Easter egg is so rare. The other rewards, Triumph rewards in Bathroom Approach, they're quite standard. Apart from one, custom, 0.47% chance, Molten Monster. Yes, there's a very, very, very small chance of getting the Molten Monster in Bathroom Approach. I don't know why this is the case, given the fact that the Molten Monster is an Operation Ice events consumable, but fair enough. Perhaps the developers just decided to copy over the code from Operation Ice to here, but no, it seems to follow more the Fallen rewards system rather than Operation Ice. Now, there's a change to eggs themselves, the currency drop. So originally, if there was a leading decimal, for example, there were 500 eggs per game, but there were like an odd amount of waves. So for example, 500 divided by 15, it'll be 33.33 eggs per wave. This used to get rounded up to 34, so you used to be slightly benefited from this. However, now it gets rounded down, as seen by Menton's statement on this. In this event, previously, there was an issue where you could use an emote and move around. However, in this Ducky Revenge event update, they've updated it so you can no longer move around unless the emote specifies that you can move around, such as the broomstick emote. Next, revive tickets have actually got a buff. If you revive, you'll get the cashback that you got for the last wave that it'll revert you to, instead of sending you straight back down to the default 600 or so that you normally get. However, there is an issue with the revive tickets where you can use the biologist to spawn a ton of units, apparently. Again, revive tickets being the buggiest feature in Tower Defense Simulator, right next to the Swarmer Tower, except the Swarmer Tower is going to get reworked. Again, at this point, revive tickets should just like be removed or whatever and just converted over to timescale tickets. These are the worst feature in the Tower Defense Simulator history, purely because it's just entirely broken all the time. I don't know if I mentioned this, so I'll mention it here. The developers did fix the Outlaw and the Plague Doctor title. It didn't fix the description though, so you can't, it says here, unlocked from the Outlaw achievement. There is no such achievement. I believe it's called something completely different. Okay, maybe not the Outlaw, there was something else. Oh no, it was called something different, but the developers decided to rename the achievements to Outlaw to match the title so that you can equip it. So yeah, they have changed this achievement. They haven't fixed trying to... Oh wait, no, they have fixed it. Okay, so originally you couldn't equip the glitch title from the Awakened task. However, they have fixed it where you can now equip the glitch from Awakened's Complete Fallen Hidden Wave. However, they haven't changed the description where it says unlocked from the glitch achievement, where it's not, it's the Awakened achievement.